Welcome, people of the World Wide Web. So it's the weekend, so it's movie review, and as you can see, it is Godzilla minus one. So I was very fortunate. I got to see this on the first day it was released. My expectations were, I like the look of it. I like the look of the trailer. I'd heard good things, and that's why I haven't seen many of the classic Godzilla movies. My experience kind of first was the American one, so the Matthew Broderick one, and then obviously the other American styles. I've seen Gamera and other kaiju type movies, but I can't really remember too much of the Godzilla ones. So that is where we are. So obviously this movie, it's very interesting. It is set around World War II, and mainly Japan, I believe. Obviously the Pearl Harbor incident and the Americans coming back. You have a pilot, Shishirama. His name is, he lands on this little island where he's basically supposed to be a suicide bomber, but he has landed saying that there are issues with his plane. The crew that are there, because this island is just full of mechanics and that, they refit and check the plane and realise there's nothing wrong with it, and he's kind of seen as a coward. He obviously, as they are fixing the plane, he decides to stay on this island overnight before he's supposed to set off. During the night, there is noises, and then Godzilla attacks the people. He is called Godzilla by local legends, and he is probably about the size of a normal small house. So he's quite a small, he's big for a creature, but this is where obviously he terrorizes the people that are there, kills everybody except Shishirama and the head technician, which is Takibana. Apologies if I butcher these names. So those are the only two left. Shishirama was supposed to use his plane that was there to defeat Godzilla, but doesn't. Then he basically goes home with the fear that all these people's lives are potentially on him. Takibana hates him, and that's where they kind of part ways. The story then evolves around Shishirama kind of taking in Noriko. So it's a girl who it basically, Japan obviously kind of lose the war, their hometown, everything's blown up, destroyed. She is a survivor of this and finds a young child who, unfortunately, her parents were killed. They kind of have a makeshift family, try to get by, and as they find out that the only work available is to go on boats to basically clear the seas of mines, because obviously during the American and Japanese war, they planted thousands of mines out in the ocean. They really need to get rid of them, because otherwise you can't move any boats around. During the process of this, it comes apparent that obviously, or during the time after the war, a nuclear bomb obviously is dropped, and obviously Godzilla is then created or mutated to a giant form, and then he basically attacks Japan, and this is the story of them trying to stop Japan trying to stop him, because he is seen to be indestructible. I actually really enjoyed this movie. There's no after credit scenes or anything like this. The story within itself is good. It does leave something at the end to possibly be more movies, but I thoroughly really liked it as kind of my first proper Godzilla movie in a very long time, and a very Japanese style one. So I'll put the spoiler review up it, so if you haven't seen it yet, we'll go into it. So basically, as I detailed, you kind of get a glimpse of what Godzilla was. He was a creature, he wasn't that big. And obviously the nuclear bomb strike after World War II obviously was the thing that mutated him, and he just sees Japan as his territory, and that's why he's going. Obviously the main story does focus on Shishirama, obviously that he is seen as a coward, and that kind of flows throughout all of it. Obviously he finds Noriko and helps her out, but never really declares love until she basically gets killed in a blast by Godzilla, which hurts him. He then, to kind of in the final battle to help, he has a plane, and he manages to searches out Takibana, and Takibana, because he's a really good mechanic, he helps fix the plane. That helps with them trying to defeat Godzilla. Obviously there are battles in between, and you do get to see Godzilla quite a bit, not as much as maybe like, but him destroying the city and stuff. I think it all just works really well. Obviously you have the elements of Godzilla and he's attacking there, but it isn't the main focus. It's Shishirama and Nokio's relationship and the stuff they go through, and even him, being a coward and trying to redeem himself and stuff. And the character's really good. Obviously this was all subtitled as well. But you know, I thoroughly enjoyed the story. It's, I say, it kind of makes me want to go back and revisit. Say, from watching movies like Gamera, I did enjoy it. This was the first movie that I see where, or I suppose apart from the 90s one, where Godzilla is the bad guy, he is the villain, and the humans are the good guys. You know, normally I see it with monsters and stuff like. Even with Gamera, he's fighting someone, but this isn't the case in this one. So it's very interesting. They did that angle. It was really well shot and stuff like this. And supposedly this was after 2016 Godzilla Shin. This is supposedly the next film that did, and this is kind of the first war piece that has been set before Godzilla kind of come about, which I quite liked. I say the setting was good, the animation was really good, like the CG and stuff. You know how they had they made him look like he was in a suit, kind of to mirror that, but not quite. It worked really well. Him destroying buildings and the effects of that was, you know, I struggled to really even find negative points for this movie. I say I don't want to go into too much details because you have to go along for the ride to kind of experience everything that goes on with this film. But I'm going to cut this short because I don't want to give too much away. But I rate it, I mean, it's just over 2 hours long. I rate this at 8.5. You know, this is, unfortunately, this is probably going into my top 10 of this year because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I say it made me want it more. There are obviously, you know, they do defeat Godzilla, whether he stays dead or not, there's not, and they do kind of reference something else, and I'm not going to mention that in it. But there's a lot of twists and turns as you go along, and the story, and just kind of how it's a Godzilla movie, but they humanise it with the story of these humans, and just the whole war that actually happened on, you know, that they were the ones that bombed Pearl Harbor, if you've seen that movie, that this is, you know, all the deaths are kind of retaliation. And yes, if you being a young lad being, you know, recruited to be a pilot, but you're a kamikaze pilot and sacrificing your life, you know, it's a hard thing to fathom for people nowadays, but I thought it was an interesting thing. Anyway, this has been my review of Godzilla -1. Absolutely loved it. Have you seen it? Please let me know your comments in it down below. Otherwise, I've been Cypher Screen Time. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things you want to do, and I shall see you in the next one.